The people who call you worthless are often the ones terrified you'll prove them wrong. Claire Bennett heard those words years ago from her grandmother. On most days, she tried to believe them. Tonight was not one of those days. Cold October rain tapped against the windows of a small diner on the edge of town as Claire wiped down the last table of her shift. Her feet ached. Her back felt stiff. She had been working since 6 that morning. First at a grocery store, then here until nearly 10 at night. It wasn't the life she imagined when she got married. It wasn't even close. Yet every time she thought about giving up, she pictured her 8-year-old son Noah waiting at home with a smile that somehow made every sacrifice feel worth it. Claire checked the time on the wall clock. 10:15. She still had a 15-mile drive home. Her phone buzzed inside her apron pocket. The screen lit up with a familiar name. Jason Bennett. Her ex-husband. Her stomach tightened instantly. She almost ignored the call. Almost. Instead, she answered. "What do you want, Jason?" Silence lingered for a second before his voice came through. Smooth. Confident. The same voice that once made promises he never kept. "Just wanted to let you know something," he said. "Melissa and I are officially engaged." Claire closed her eyes. "Congratulations." "That's it." Jason laughed. No jealousy. No regrets. Claire gripped the edge of the counter. "I'm working, Jason." "Right," he replied. "Still working 2 jobs. Must be exhausting." She said nothing. He continued anyway. "You know, I told Melissa today how lucky I am. Imagine spending your life struggling paycheck to paycheck." Claire felt heat rise in her chest. "Is there a reason you called?" Another laugh. Then came the sentence she had heard in different forms for years. "Let's be honest, Claire. No man wants a single mom with baggage." The words hit harder than she wanted to admit. Not because she believed them, because she was tired of hearing them. Jason ended the call before she could respond. The screen went dark. For a moment, the diner felt strangely quiet. Claire slipped the phone away and forced herself to keep moving. Bills. Didn't care about feelings. Rent didn't pause for heartbreak. Life kept going. 20 minutes later, she stepped outside into the cold night air. Rain drizzled across the empty parking lot. Her old sedan waited beneath a flickering streetlight. She pulled her coat tighter and started toward it. Then she noticed something unusual. Across the road, near a bus stop, a tall man stood alone in the rain. His expensive suit was soaked. One hand pressed against the metal bench for support. Most people drove past without looking. Claire slowed. Something about the stranger's expression stopped her. He looked lost. Not physically lost. The deeper kind. The kind that couldn't be fixed with directions. She hesitated for a second, then changed course and walked toward him. As the rain fell harder around them, neither of them realized that this small decision was about to change both of their lives forever. The stranger looked up as Claire approached. Rain dripped from his dark hair. Water streaked across the shoulders of a suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent. Even so, there was nothing arrogant about him. He looked exhausted. "Are you okay?" Claire asked. The man blinked, almost surprised that someone had stopped. "I am fine," he said quietly. His voice carried the calm confidence of someone used to being heard, yet tonight it sounded distant. Claire glanced around. The road was nearly empty. A cold wind pushed through the street. "You do not look fine," she replied. For a moment, he almost smiled. "That obvious?" She nodded. "A little." Silence settled between them. Most people would have kept walking. Claire knew that. She probably should have. Noah was waiting at home. She still had a long drive ahead of her. Yet something about the stranger made her stay. Maybe it was the loneliness in his eyes. Maybe it was because she understood what it felt like when the world kept moving while you struggled to catch your breath. "Do you need help getting somewhere?" she asked. The man looked toward the dark street. "My car broke down about a mile away. My phone battery died. I was waiting for a ride." Claire frowned. "In this weather?" "Apparently not my best decision." A small laugh escaped her before she could stop it. The stranger laughed too. The tension eased. "There is a diner across the road," Claire said. "They are closing, but I know the manager. You could wait inside for a while." He hesitated. "You would do that for someone you do not know?" Claire shrugged. "Everyone needs a little help sometimes." The man studied her face carefully, as if he was trying to understand something. Finally he nodded. Together they crossed the wet pavement. Inside, the manager allowed them to sit for a few minutes while the last lights remained on. Claire ordered a cup of coffee for the stranger. He thanked her. "You really did not have to do this." "I know." He wrapped both hands around the warm cup. Most people would have walked away. Claire looked out the window at the rain. Most people have their own problems. And you do not. She smiled softly. More than enough. The stranger noticed the worn fabric of her coat, the tiredness behind her eyes, the wedding ring that was no longer there. Yet despite everything, she still seemed focused on helping someone else. That detail stayed with him. Outside, a black luxury SUV finally turned into the parking lot. The driver hurried toward the entrance. Relief crossed the stranger's face. He stood. Looks like my ride arrived. Claire rose as well. Good. He reached into his pocket, then stopped. I never got your name. Claire. Thank you, Claire. She nodded. Drive safe. The stranger walked toward the door, then paused. My name is Ethan. Before Claire could respond, he disappeared into the storm. Minutes later, she climbed into her old sedan and headed home. Neither of them realized that this brief meeting would soon connect to a secret buried years in the past, a secret that would change everything. Some people enter your life for a moment, then disappear. Others leave behind a question that refuses to go away. 3 days passed after the rainy night at the diner, yet Claire still found herself thinking about Ethan. Not because he was handsome, not because of his expensive suit. It was the look in his eyes. Beneath the confidence, she had seen sadness. Real sadness. The kind people tried to hide. Life quickly pulled her attention elsewhere. Bills needed to be paid. Noah needed help with homework. Work schedules filled every hour of her week. By Friday afternoon, Claire was stocking shelves at the grocery store when her phone vibrated. A message from Noah's elementary school appeared on the screen. Parent Appreciation Night. Tuesday evening. Families welcome. Claire smiled. Noah loved school events. He never missed an opportunity to show her his latest drawings or science projects. That night, after dinner, Noah sat at the kitchen table coloring while Claire sorted through a stack of unpaid bills. The numbers felt impossible. Rent, utilities, insurance. Every month seemed harder than the one before. Noah looked up from his paper. Mom. Yes. Are we poor? The question caught her off guard. Claire set down a bill. Why would you ask that? Noah shrugged. A kid at school said we are because you drive an old car. Claire forced a smile. Having an old car does not make someone poor. Then what makes someone rich? Noah asked. She thought for a moment. Being rich is having people who love you. Noah grinned immediately. Then we are rich. Claire laughed softly. The answer warmed her heart more than she expected. Across town, Ethan Blackwood sat alone inside the top-floor office of Blackwood Enterprises. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline. Most people would have envied the view. Tonight he barely noticed it. A framed photograph sat on his desk. His young son smiling beside a lake. Ethan picked it up. His mind drifted to an afternoon 5 years earlier. A crowded park. Panic. Fear. Then a stranger stepping forward to help when nobody else reacted fast enough. He had spent years trying to identify the woman who helped his son that day. Every lead had ended in disappointment. Yet something about Claire felt strangely familiar. He could not explain it. A knock interrupted his thoughts. His assistant entered carrying a folder. Your schedule for next week. Ethan nodded absent-mindedly. The folder slipped open. One page caught his attention. Parent Appreciation Night. Lincoln Elementary School. Community sponsor. Appearance requested. Ethan frowned. Lincoln Elementary. The same school listed on the volunteer forms he had recently reviewed. The same school Claire's address appeared to be connected to. Coincidence, he wondered. Or something more. Meanwhile, Claire had no idea that events were already moving around her. She tucked Noah into bed that night. As she turned off the bedroom light, he smiled sleepily. You are coming to Parent Appreciation Night, right? Of course, Claire promised. Noah closed his eyes. Good. There is someone important I want you to meet. Claire smiled, unaware that across the city another person was preparing for the exact same event, and that one unexpected meeting was about to reopen a chapter of the past neither of them fully understood. The hardest part of being underestimated is staying silent while people decide who you are. Claire thought about that as she walked into Lincoln Elementary School the following Tuesday evening. The hallways buzzed with conversation. Parents gathered near classroom displays. Children raced between tables covered with artwork, science projects, and colorful posters. Noah immediately grabbed her hand. Come on, Mom. I want to show you everything. His excitement made her smile. For the next 20 minutes, she admired drawings, read short essays, and listened as Noah proudly explained every detail of a model solar system he had spent 2 weeks building. For a little while, life felt simple. Then she heard a familiar voice. "Well, look who made it." Claire turned. Jason stood a few feet away beside his fiancée, Melissa. He wore an expensive suit and a confident smile. Melissa crossed her arms, studying Claire from head to toe. "Hello, Jason," Claire said calmly. "I am surprised you came," Jason replied. "I figured you would be working." Noah's smile faded slightly. Claire noticed immediately. "I always make time for Noah." Jason laughed. "Of course. Although making time is easier when you do not have much else going on." Melissa chuckled beside him. Claire felt the familiar sting. Not because the words hurt anymore. Because she was tired of hearing them. Noah looked down at the floor. That bothered her more than anything. Before she could respond, the school principal stepped onto a small stage near the cafeteria entrance. A microphone squealed softly. Conversations faded. "Thank you all for coming tonight," the principal announced. "We would also like to recognize a generous supporter of our school. His company recently funded several educational programs for our students." Applause filled the room. Jason glanced toward the stage. "Probably another millionaire looking for publicity," he muttered. The principal smiled. "Please welcome Mr. Ethan Blackwood." Claire froze. Across the room, Ethan walked onto the stage. His appearance was polished tonight. Tailored suit. Confident posture. The exhausted stranger from the rainy night seemed completely transformed. The crowd reacted immediately. Parents whispered. Teachers smiled. Even Jason straightened with interest. "Blackwood," Melissa whispered. "As in Blackwood Enterprises?" Ethan thanked the audience, then began speaking about education, opportunity, and community. Claire listened quietly. His words sounded sincere. Not rehearsed. Not forced. Then something unexpected happened. Ethan's gaze drifted through the crowd. For a brief moment, his eyes met hers. Recognition flashed across his face. He paused in the middle of a sentence. Only for a second. Then he continued. Nobody else seemed to notice. Claire certainly did. After the presentation ended, parents gathered around Ethan. Handshakes. Photos. Business cards. Jason immediately moved closer. "This could be useful," he whispered to Melissa. Meanwhile, Noah tugged gently on Claire's sleeve. "Mom, what is it?" Noah pointed toward Ethan. "That is the man." Claire frowned. "What man?" Noah looked confused. "The man from the picture." A chill ran through her. "What picture?" Noah opened his backpack and carefully pulled out an old school project about heroes. Taped to one page was a faded photograph from years ago. Claire stared at it. Her heart skipped a beat. Because standing in the background of that photograph was Ethan Blackwood, and suddenly a memory she had not thought about in years began rushing back. Some memories stay hidden for years until one small detail pulls them back into the light. Claire stared at the faded photograph in Noah's school project. The image had been taken 5 years earlier during a community event at a lakeside park. Children smiled at the camera. Families stood nearby. In the background, partially out of focus, stood a younger version of Ethan Blackwood. Her pulse quickened. Suddenly, she remembered that day with surprising clarity. Noah had been only 3 years old. She had volunteered at the event because the organizers needed extra help. Near the playground, a frightened little boy had become separated from his family. While dozens of people rushed past without noticing, Claire had stayed with him, comforting him until security located his father. The child had been scared. Tears filled his eyes. Claire remembered kneeling beside him, offering him a small woven bracelet Noah had made from colorful strings. The bracelet helped calm him down. Soon afterward, his father arrived. Everything happened so quickly that Claire barely saw the man's face before she returned to helping with the event. Life moved on. She never thought about it again. "Mom," Noah asked, "are you okay?" Claire blinked and smiled. "Yes, I just remembered something." Across the room, Ethan continued greeting parents. Yet every few moments, his attention drifted back toward Claire. Something felt familiar. He could not explain why. Later that evening, after most families had left, Ethan returned to his office. He loosened his tie and sat behind his desk. The memory from the photograph refused to leave him alone. Finally, he opened a drawer and removed a small box. Inside lay an old woven bracelet made from faded blue, red, and yellow strings. He had kept it for years. The bracelet belonged to the woman who helped his son during that frightening afternoon at the park. His son had insisted on keeping it because it reminded him of kindness. Ethan turned the bracelet over in his hands. Then he remembered something else. Noah. Claire's son was also named Noah. Coincidence seemed less likely with every passing minute. The next morning, Ethan called his assistant. I need information on someone. Of course. Claire. Bennett. His assistant hesitated. May I ask why? Ethan looked out the window. Because I think she may be connected to something important. Meanwhile, Claire started another exhausting day. The grocery store was crowded. Customers filled every aisle. She focused on work, unaware that events were quietly unfolding around her. Near lunchtime, her manager approached carrying an envelope. This was delivered for you. Claire frowned. Nobody ever sent her letters. She carefully opened it. Inside was an invitation printed on expensive paper. Blackwood Enterprises Community Leadership Program. Selected candidates were invited to attend a special networking event the following week. Claire read the invitation twice. There had to be some mistake. People like her did not receive invitations from companies like Blackwood Enterprises. Yet her name was printed clearly across the top. As confusion mixed with curiosity, she had no idea that Ethan's search for answers had officially begun, and that the bracelet hidden inside his desk was about to uncover a secret neither of them expected. Sometimes the opportunity that changes your life arrives disguised as something you almost ignore. Claire nearly threw the invitation away. For 2 days it sat on her kitchen counter beneath grocery receipts and unpaid bills. Every time she walked past it, she felt the same uncertainty. Blackwood Enterprises belonged to a world she had never been part of. People in tailored suits, executive meetings, expensive conversations she imagined she would not understand. By Thursday evening, Noah finally picked up the envelope and looked at her. Why are you not going? Claire laughed softly. Because they probably invited the wrong person. Noah shook his head immediately. Maybe they invited exactly the right person. His answer lingered in her mind long after he went to bed. 3 days later, Claire stood outside the downtown conference center holding the invitation in one hand. Towering glass walls reflected the evening sunlight. Luxury cars lined the entrance. For a brief moment, she considered turning around. Then she remembered every time someone had underestimated her. Every time she had doubted herself. Taking a deep breath, she walked inside. The ballroom buzzed with conversation. Business owners, nonprofit leaders, and community volunteers filled the room. Claire felt out of place immediately. She chose a quiet corner near the back. At least there, nobody would notice her. Across the room, Ethan noticed her almost instantly. He had spent the past week learning more about Claire Bennett. What he discovered only deepened his respect. 2 jobs, endless sacrifices, a spotless reputation. Teachers praised her involvement at school. Neighbors described her kindness. Nobody had a negative word to say. Ethan found that rare. Very rare. He approached slowly. I was hoping you would come. Claire turned, surprised. Mr. Blackwood. Please, he said. Call me Ethan. She smiled politely. Thank you for the invitation, although I still do not understand why I received one. Ethan studied her for a moment. Because leaders do not always work in corner offices. Claire looked confused. Ethan continued. Sometimes leadership looks like showing up every day for your family when nobody is applauding. For a second, Claire did not know what to say. Nobody had described her that way before. The evening moved forward. Guests shared ideas. Speakers discussed community projects. Gradually, Claire relaxed. Her natural warmth drew people toward her. By the end of the night, she had spoken with more people than she expected. Several attendees even exchanged contact information with her. Ethan watched it all happen. She was exactly who she appeared to be. Genuine, kind, strong. Yet one question still remained unanswered. As the event ended, Ethan reached into his jacket pocket. His fingers touched the old woven bracelet he carried there. The same bracelet from years ago. The same clue that had started everything. He hesitated. Not yet. He needed to be certain first. Meanwhile, another pair of eyes had been watching from across the ballroom. Jason Bennett lowered his drink and stared in disbelief. He recognized Claire immediately. More importantly, he saw her speaking with Ethan Blackwood. Laughing, smiling, looking comfortable among people Jason always assumed were beyond her reach. A feeling he had not experienced in years twisted inside him. Jealousy. Driving home that night, Jason could think about only one thing. Somehow, Claire's life was moving in a direction he never expected, and for the first time since their divorce, That possibility made him deeply uncomfortable. The truth has a strange way of revealing itself when people stop looking for it. 2 weeks passed after the networking event. Claire returned to her normal routine, balancing work, bills, and motherhood. Yet something had changed. Opportunities that never seemed possible before were beginning to appear. One afternoon, she received a call from a community outreach organization partnered with Blackwood Enterprises. They offered her a paid position helping coordinate family support programs across the city. The schedule was better. The pay was significantly higher. Most importantly, she would finally have evenings free with Noah. When the offer arrived, Claire sat silently at her kitchen table. Tears filled her eyes. Not because of the money, because for the first time in years, she could see a future that was not built entirely around survival. Noah hugged her so tightly she almost laughed. "I told you they invited the right person," he said proudly. Meanwhile, Ethan continued searching for answers. His assistant had tracked down records from the community event at the Lakeside Park 5 years earlier. Most details were incomplete. Volunteer lists, event photos, old registration forms. Yet one photograph immediately caught Ethan's attention. There she was, Claire, standing beside a small boy, his son. Ethan stared at the image for several seconds. The bracelet, the timing, the location, everything aligned perfectly. The woman he had been searching for all these years had been standing in front of him the entire time. He leaned back in his chair, overwhelmed by the realization. The search that lasted 5 years was finally over. Across town, Jason's frustration continued growing. News traveled quickly through mutual acquaintances. He learned about Claire's new position. He learned about her connection to Blackwood Enterprises. Most of all, he learned that people were beginning to respect her in ways he never had. It bothered him more than he wanted to admit. One evening, he visited a local business gathering where several community leaders were present. During a conversation, he casually mentioned Claire's name. "She is getting a lot of attention lately," someone said. "She earned it," another person replied. Jason forced a smile. "Sure, although she has always been lucky." The group exchanged uncomfortable glances. Nobody agreed. Jason noticed. For perhaps the first time, his opinions carried less weight than hers. The realization unsettled him. A few days later, Ethan invited Claire to lunch to discuss the family outreach program. She accepted reluctantly, still unsure why he seemed so interested in her work. During the meeting, the conversation flowed naturally. They discussed children, education, community projects, and life experiences. Then Ethan placed something small on the table between them, a faded woven bracelet. Claire froze instantly. Her eyes widened. She recognized it immediately. "Where did you get that?" she whispered. Ethan's expression softened. "My son has kept it for 5 years." Silence filled the room. Claire looked from the bracelet to Ethan. Suddenly, every missing piece connected. Every memory returned. Ethan took a slow breath. "Claire, I think you are the woman who helped my son at the park all those years ago." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Claire finally answered. "I think you are right. Some moments change the way an entire room sees a person forever." 1 month after their conversation about the bracelet, Blackwood Enterprises hosted its annual Community Impact Gala. Hundreds of guests filled the grand ballroom. Business leaders, nonprofit directors, city officials, and local families gathered beneath sparkling chandeliers. Claire almost declined the invitation. Events like this still felt unfamiliar. Yet Noah convinced her to attend. "You belong there," he said. Those 4 words stayed with her all evening. Claire arrived wearing a simple navy blue dress. Nothing extravagant. Nothing designed to attract attention. Even so, she carried herself with quiet confidence. Across the room, conversations slowed as Ethan greeted guests. The event began with speeches, awards, and presentations celebrating people who had made a difference in their communities. Claire assumed she was simply another guest in the audience. She had no idea what Ethan had planned. Meanwhile, Jason and Melissa sat several tables away. Jason had spent weeks watching Claire's growing reputation. Every success seemed to irritate him more. When he noticed her sitting near the front of the ballroom, his expression darkened. "How does she keep ending up at these events?" he muttered. Melissa offered no answer. Deep down, she was wondering the same thing. Near the end of the evening, Ethan stepped onto the stage. The room quickly fell silent. "Tonight," he began, "we celebrate leadership. Not the kind measured by titles or wealth. The kind measured by character." The audience listened closely. Ethan continued. 5 years ago, during a difficult moment in my family's life, a stranger stepped forward to help my son. She did not do it for recognition. She did not expect anything in return. Then she disappeared. A large screen behind him illuminated with an old photograph from the Lakeside community event. Murmurs spread across the ballroom. Claire felt her heart begin to race. Ethan looked directly at her. For years, I searched for that person. The room grew completely quiet. Recently, I discovered that she was never far away. She was raising her son, serving her community, working harder than most people could imagine, all while expecting nothing from anyone. Claire's eyes filled with tears. Ethan stepped down from the stage and walked toward her table. Hundreds of people watched. Jason stared in disbelief. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Reaching Claire, Ethan stopped. Then, to the shock of everyone in the ballroom, he lowered himself onto one knee. Gasps echoed through the crowd. It was not a proposal. It was something deeper. Something built on gratitude and respect. Ethan looked up at her. Claire Bennett, on behalf of my family, my company, and everyone whose lives you have touched, thank you. His voice trembled slightly. You reminded my son what kindness looks like. You reminded me what strength looks like. Tears rolled down Claire's cheeks. Around them, guests began standing, one by one, table after table. Soon the entire ballroom rose in applause. The sound filled every corner of the room. Jason remained frozen in his chair. The woman he once dismissed was now receiving a standing ovation from some of the most respected people in the city. As the applause continued, Ethan handed Claire a crystal award engraved with a simple message: for extraordinary compassion and service. Looking around the ballroom, Claire finally understood something she had forgotten years ago. Her value had never depended on the opinions of people who failed to see it. The people who underestimate you often believe they are writing your story. What they never realize is that they are only reading one chapter. The weeks following the gala brought changes Claire never expected. Newspapers published photos from the event. Community organizations invited her to speak about volunteer work and family support programs. Parents at Noah's school greeted her with genuine admiration. Yet the attention never changed who she was. She still packed Noah's lunches every morning. She still drove the same old car. She still believed kindness mattered more than status. That was exactly what Ethan admired most. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan joined Claire and Noah at a community fundraiser in the city park. Children played nearby while volunteers organized donation tables. Watching Ethan help carry supplies and joke with Noah felt strangely natural, comfortable, as if they had known each other much longer than a few months. Later, while Noah participated in a game across the field, Ethan and Claire sat together on a wooden bench. A cool breeze moved through the trees. Can I ask you something? Ethan said. Claire smiled. You usually do. He laughed softly. After everything you have been through, how did you stay kind? Claire thought for a moment. Because becoming bitter would have let other people decide who I became. Ethan looked at her quietly. The answer stayed with him long after the conversation ended. Across town, Jason faced a very different reality. For years he had measured success through money, appearances, and social status. Now he found himself thinking about someone he believed he had already left behind. One evening, he saw another article featuring Claire's community work. Instead of feeling angry, he felt something unexpected: regret. Not because she was receiving recognition, because he had never appreciated her when he had the chance. Several days later, Jason requested a meeting. Claire agreed, mostly for closure. They met at a small coffee shop near downtown. For the first time in years, Jason seemed uncertain. I owe you an apology, he said quietly. Claire listened without speaking. Jason lowered his eyes. I spent years acting like your worth depended on what you had. I was wrong. Silence stretched between them. Finally, Claire nodded. Thank you. She did not need revenge. She did not need to humiliate him. His realization was enough. When the conversation ended, she walked away feeling lighter than she had in years. Some burdens are not lifted by success. They are lifted by letting go. A month later, Blackwood Enterprises hosted another community event. This time Claire stood beside Ethan as an official program director. Noah sat proudly in the front row. During the closing remarks, Ethan addressed the audience. The strongest people are not always the loudest. Sometimes they are the ones quietly helping others while carrying challenges nobody sees. His eyes met Claire's. A warm smile passed between them. The future remained unwritten. Neither rushed to define it. What mattered was trust, respect, friendship, the foundation of something real. As applause filled the room, Noah grinned from ear to ear. Claire looked around at the people she had helped, the life she had built, and the family standing beside her. For the first time in a very long while, she was not simply surviving. She was living, and that made all the difference.